digested food is, suppose it moves in this direction, what Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My dear students, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to the video lecture series. I'm your biology expert, and today we are going to take up lecture number 3 for biology, of course. The chapter which we have started is life processes, and the topic which we are dealing right now is nutrition. This topic I've already introduced to you in lecture number 2, and I have made you understand about the two broader types of nutrition. That is autotrophic mode of nutrition and heterotrophic mode of nutrition, whereby I have given you the 4 different types of heterotrophic mode of nutrition. They were parasitic nutrition, saprotrophic nutrition, mixotrophic nutrition, and holozoic nutrition. As far as parasitic, saprotrophic, mixotrophic nutritions are concerned, I have given you the detailed account of these modes of nutrition in lecture number 2. Now we are left with holozoic mode of nutrition. Since it involves a couple of examples, we have to go into the holozoic mode of nutrition in amoeba, and we have to go then into the holozoic mode of nutrition in man. So this topic we are going to touch today. The topic for today is going to be holozoic mode of nutrition. Let us begin the topic itself. So, holozoic mode of nutrition, as the term itself indicates, is that mode of nutrition in which an organism basically ingests, or you can say it engulfs, whole food. We can say in solid form. So the organism here is basically ingesting the food. The organism is engulfing the food. That type of nutrition in which an organism is engulfing whole solid food is called holozoic mode of nutrition. For example, let me give you an example. Relevant examples I'll give you. If I quote all animals, just for the sake of simplicity, I quote all animals. Say for example, we have the herbivores, like we have the buffalo, we have cow, we have goats, or we have the carnivores. Say for example, we have the dog, we have, for that matter, we have tigers and wolves. Or we take the omnivores, say for example, we have the man himself, or we take for example bear into consideration. All these organisms are basically doing what? They are engulfing some solid food, and then they are getting the nutrition from that solid food. Now, how they are getting the nutrition, that is going to involve a couple of steps. So, all animals are going to show generally this holozoic mode of nutrition. The relevant examples which we have to discuss in this class are that of an amoeba, which is basically what? It's a unicellular organism belonging to the protistans, kingdom Protista. So it's a unicellular protozoa. Okay? It's a unicellular protozoa, and it obtains its food from the aquatic environment because it's an aquatic organism. So it obtains its food in the form of solid, plant material or solid animal material. Okay, so it is showing again the same mode of nutrition, that is holozoic mode of nutrition. For that matter, even man, human being, also shows holozoic mode of nutrition. Now the question which is worthy of consideration is that how we get, or how amoeba gets nutrition from the solid food. So the steps which are involved in holozoic mode of nutrition are as follows. So there will be definitely some steps. The first step will be the intake of the food, the introduction of the food into the body of the organism. Say for example, if we take man into consideration, I have to grab the food with my hands, and then I have to introduce the food, whatever the food is, into my mouth. Specifically, I have to introduce that food into my buccal cavity via mouth. That step of introduction of food into the body is called the step of ingestion. What is the step? Is ingestion. So ingestion simply is what? Introduction of food into the body. Once the food will be introduced into the body, then the body has to break the food, because I have made you understand that the food has complex nutrients. The body is supposed to break the food into simpler substances. That process is called, or that step is called, the step of digestion. So now the organism has to perform digestion of the food which it has engulfed, which it has ingested. So the second step is the breakdown of food into what? Into simple soluble substances. If you can give me the examples of these simple soluble substances, we have the sugars. Say for example the glucose. We have amino acids. Okay, we have fatty acids, etc. So body has to basically break the food. That means the carbohydrates, proteins and fats which are present in the food, it has to break that food into simple substances. And for breaking these complex substances into simple substances, what does the organism need are enzymes. So digestion process is aided by, that is performed by, or that is carried out by the help of these important substances called enzymes, which are produced by the organism itself. Now, after the substances are degraded, after the substances are broken down into simpler form inside the body of the organism, then what is to be done is basically the next step. The next step is very simple. That means we have to now transfer these substances into the circulatory system of the organism. So say for example, if you have taken some food, you have digested that food that is still in your digestive system. You have to transport these substances into your circulatory system, that is your blood, which will carry these substances to the different destinations, to the different cells of your body. That step is the step of absorption. That's very important. So what is going to happen after digestion is absorption. In case of absorption, what will happen is the transport of what? Simple, soluble substances from the digestive system into the circulatory system, which in case of man is going to involve the blood circulatory system as well as the lymph circulatory system. You have studied in lower classes that humans have two types of circulatory systems. We have two types of fluid connective tissues. On one side we have the blood, and we have another circulatory system, we have another transportation system that's called the lymphatic system. So some of the substances are going to go over here, and if we talk about the fats, they are going to be transported via lymph. Whereas your sugars and your amino acids, they'll be transported via blood. So remember this point. So lymph is having this job of transporting the digested fats from the digestive system to all parts of the body. Whereas the blood has the job of carrying sugars and amino acids and different other substances also from the digestive system to the rest parts of the body. Now, once absorption is done, then there is another step which is going to happen, is the step of assimilation. That is very, very important. Assimilation. In case of assimilation, what is going to happen is basically, now you are having all the nutrients in the circulatory system. Oh, okay, they are getting transported with the help of circulatory system, but they are basically needed by the body cells. So assimilation involves what? It involves uptake of simple, soluble substances by the cells of the body. So since now you have a river, the river, that's your blood, that is having the substances in it, the nutrients in it, the sugars and amino acids in it. Now these substances are to be taken up by the cells of the body. So this step whereby substances are being taken up or absorbed by the cells of the body. Okay, that step is the step of assimilation. Now why we call it assimilation is basically inside the body, cells. Now inside the cells of the body, inside the cells, either those substances will be stored for future use, okay, or those substances will be utilized, or those substances will be utilized. So what is getting done in the body cells is either the utilization or the storage. So either those substances, those nutrients will be stored for future use, or they'll be utilized for generating, you know this pointer, for generating energy. That step is called the step of assimilation, whereby your cells are uptaking the nutrients and they are either using those nutrients to get the energy, or they are storing those nutrients for the future use. That step is your step of assimilation. Last but not the least, we have this step number 5, that is the step of egestion. Okay, this was ingestion, this is egestion. Now, what is egestion is simply, you have some substances, you have some food there in the digestive system. So there is some food in the digestive system which has not undergone digestion, which has been there undigested. You have to remove that undigested food from the body. Okay, so removal of undigested food. So removal of undigested food is the step of egestion. If man has something there in the digestive system which is undigested, what man does is man performs defecation, man performs egestion, whereby man removes that undigested food through the anus outside. So that removal of undigested food is the step of egestion. So Holozoic mode of nutrition is undoubtedly the uptake or ingestion of the solid food and then getting the energy and the nutrients from that solid food. But what are the different steps which are involved in Holozoic mode of nutrition are as follows. You have, first of all, you have to introduce the food into the body, that is ingestion. Then you have to break the complex food into simple substances, that is digestion. And then you have to absorb those digested simple substances into the circulatory system, that is absorption. And then you have to uptake those nutrients from the circulatory system. Those nutrients are to be uptaken by the cells, whereby they are either stored or utilized. That is the step of assimilation. And last but not the least, you have to remove the undigested food from the body. That is your step of egestion. Now let us focus on Holozoic mode of nutrition in amoeba. Okay, this is the duster. Now let us take up this Holozoic mode of nutrition in amoeba first. Okay, amoeba, you people know, it's what I've already told you. It's a unicellular, aquatic. Aquatic means it lives in water. Protozoan organism. Okay, and it feeds on what? It feeds on both plant as well as animal material which is there in the aquatic environment which is available to it. So let us see the different steps which amoeba follows in order to get its nourishment, and we will get an idea about whether it is basically the uptake of solid food or not. So say for example, amoeba, since it has irregular body, so this over here is our amoeba, and this body which I am showing is the nucleus of amoeba. This is what we need to show. We don't need to complicate the things over here. So this is your amoeba and this is the nucleus of the amoeba. And over here I will show a food particle. Suppose this is a food particle. Remember, it could be even a bacteria, a simple bacteria which is there in the water, that could act as a food particle. Amoeba is not going to take up a big samosa like we will do. So its food will be microscopic in nature, because the organism itself is microscopic in nature. So I will not complicate the things. So this is the food particle, the solid food particle which amoeba has to take. Now, how will amoeba ingest the food? How will amoeba introduce this food particle into the body? Because amoeba doesn't have arms and hand and mouth. So amoeba follows a different strategy. Now look what amoeba will do. So amoeba will start moving towards the food particle. Now comes this concept of chemotaxis. Basically, this food particle will secrete, or it will produce certain chemical substances which will be diffused in this particular area. And those chemical substances will act as a stimulus for the amoeba to sense the food particle. You have to think like amoeba doesn't have eyes so that it will see that there is a food particle. Almighty Allah has kept the mechanism of chemotaxis, whereby this organism basically starts moving towards the food particle by sensing certain chemical secretions which are produced by the food particle itself. So certain chemicals will be released by the food particle which will diffuse into the vicinity, and amoeba will sense those chemical stimulus and it will migrate towards the food particle. That process is called chemotaxis. That you will understand in detail in higher classes. This is an idea over here. So now what amoeba will do, it will move. And for movement, what amoeba produces, what amoeba generates are the false feet, which you know from lower classes. Amoeba produces false feet, what we call pseudopodia. Okay, pseudo means false, podia are the feet. So amoeba produces these false feet in order to move towards the food particle. So what is producing, what is basically a pseudopodia are basically the evaginations, the extensions of the plasma membrane. So what will happen is something like this. This is your amoeba. It will produce these pseudopodia. See, these two are the pseudopodia. This is the nucleus of amoeba, and over here is your food particle. Okay, what is amoeba trying to do is it is trying to surround the food particle. It's trying to surround the food particle by the help of its pseudopodia. So these extensions, this and this, they are the pseudopodia. So what amoeba wants to do is basically to try to, trap the food particle. So in the next step, what happens is basically the two pseudopodia, they come very close to each other like this. They come very close to each other, and finally what do is they join with each other. Something like this is going to happen. See what is happening over here? The food particle is now over here. What is being done by the amoeba is it is a kind of act whereby amoeba is trying to trap the food, and it has successfully trapped the food because the pseudopodia are coming closer to each other. And finally what they do is that they seal up. They get basically connected with each other like this. No, this part joins this part and this part joins this part. What is being done over here is basically engulfment. Now the food particle is not outside. It's not outside. It's now inside the amoeba. So what else you have to make is the nucleus of the amoeba. Now over here you can say from here to here, what has been done is step number 1, that is ingestion. Because now the food particle is inside the body of the amoeba. That too, it's not naked, it's covered with this membrane. That's why this structure is given the name food vacuole. What is it given the name? Food vacuole, or we call it a phagosome. Okay, this vesicle with the food particle is called the phagosome or food vacuole. Even you call this process phagocytosis. Okay, you call this entire process phagocytosis because this is a kind of act of cell eating, because cell is eating something over here. Okay, once ingestion is done, which is the next step which amoeba has to do, is the step of digestion. That's very simple. Pay attention. Amoeba definitely has these bodies. These are lysosomes. You know these lysosomes? Lysosomes are very, very special structures because they contain digestive enzymes. That's why you also call lysosomes as suicide bags of the cell. Now over here, lysosomes are not going to do any kind of suicide, but they are going to attack this food vacuole. They are going to come closer to the food vacuole and they are going to release the digestive enzymes into the food vacuole. So what are being released into the food vacuole are the digestive enzymes. So now the condition is like this. The condition is like this. You have amoeba. You have the food vacuole. Inside the food vacuole, what is present is the food particle. But now the food particle is being acted by the what? Digestive enzymes. It is being acted by the digestive enzymes. So let me show like this. Since I have told you that lysosomes contain the digestive enzymes, lysosome will attack the food vacuole. They will dispose the digestive enzymes into the food vacuole. So now what is happening over here will be the step of digestion. Who is helping in digestion are the enzymes which were present in the lysosomes. These enzymes are now inside the food vacuole and they will now start attacking the food particle and breaking down the food particle into simple substances, which I can show like this. I'll make a next arrow. Again this amoeba. Let me show the nucleus also over here. So this is the nucleus of the amoeba. You have the food vacuole. Let me now show you. Inside the food vacuole, now you have these dots. They now represent the simple soluble substances. That means you know, okay? The sugars, amino acids, fatty acids. And all the food particle will not be digested. Some of it will remain undigested. Okay? Some of it will remain undigested. So this is what? This is undigested food. Remember this point. Not even the complete bacteria will undergo the digestion. Only some of its parts will undergo digestion and you will get the simple substances. Some of the part of the food particle will remain undigested. So this is by green I'm showing you the undigested food. So digestion is done. Pay attention. There was a food particle. Amoeba produced the pseudopodia. It tried to trap the food particle. It successfully trapped the food particle and inside what you get is the food vacuole which is containing the food particle. Now what is attacking the food vacuole are the lysosomes. What they are doing are they are basically releasing their digestive enzymes into the food vacuole. What will these enzymes do is they will digest the food particle. So these blue dots represent the enzymes. They start acting upon the food particle and they will digest the food particle. They will break down the food particle. Then you will have these simple soluble substances and a part of the food particle will remain undigested. Then what you are supposed to do is that these substances, these simple soluble substances, they will simply diffuse into the cytoplasm. They will diffuse into the cytoplasm. So now two steps will happen. That means you have first of all the diffusion of simple soluble substances into cytoplasm. So first of all they will be diffused into the cytoplasm. cytoplasm. Okay, so now these substances will diffuse into the cytoplasm. Why they will diffuse is very simple. The concentration is more here, concentration is less here, so these substances will flow from a region of high concentration to the region of low concentration. That's why I use the term diffusion. So these substances will diffuse into the cytoplasm, and once they will diffuse into the cytoplasm, inside the cytoplasm these substances will either be used for energy generation or they will be stored. I told you earlier. This is the step, that is the third step, that is the step of absorption. And this one is the fourth step, that is the step of assimilation. Try and understand. So you have the simple soluble substances here. They will first of all diffuse into the cytoplasm. That means they are getting transported into the cytoplasm. That step is the absorption step. Once absorption is done, now you have the substances over here. So you don't have any substance now over here. You have these substances now in the cytoplasm. Inside the cytoplasm, they will either be used for producing energy or they will be stored. That is the step of assimilation. Finally, what you have is basically the amoeba. You will have this amoeba, its nucleus, and you have what? And finally, you have this undigested food within the vacuole. Okay, so you have undigested food within the vacuole. This body is called, my dear students, it's called residual body. What is it called? Residual body, because it has the waste in it. Now amoeba has to remove this waste from its body. What will it do? It will again move with the help of the pseudopodia. So amoeba will move. Let me show you. Suppose it moves in this direction. What happens is that at certain point this food vacuole, residual body, will come in contact with the plasma membrane. The point where it will come in contact with the plasma membrane, it will eject the waste outside, and this membrane, blue colored membrane, it will be supplied back to the plasma membrane. This is the step of, so this is the nucleus over here. This is the step where the waste is removed. This is the fifth step, that is the step of egestion. If you're getting my point clear over here or not. Okay, so this is the step of egestion. Once again, help you in revising the concepts before I wind up this lecture. So you have this amoeba, unicellular organism. It doesn't have any complicated systems, no circulatory system because it's just one cell. This over here is the food particle which amoeba wants to ingest. Now, how it came to know that there is a food particle in the vicinity is because of the, chemotaxis. The food particle will secrete some chemical substances which will be censored by the amoeba, and amoeba will start moving towards that food particle. This movement by sensing the chemical substances is called the chemotaxis. Okay. Now, amoeba will produce these false feet. So, this is basically, let me show you with the help of the blue pen. So, this is the plasma membrane of amoeba. It's very flexible, so it can bend and it can produce this feet-like structure, this foot-like structure, which is not the real foot, it's a false foot. So that's why we use the term pseudo for false and podia for the foot. So we use the word pseudopodia. So over here amoeba has produced the pseudopodia by which it's trying to trap the food particle. It further, elongates these pseudopodia which finally come closer to each other and they seal each other. So they get sealed up. Okay, the pseudopodia gets sealed up, finally engulfing the food particle in the form of a food vacuole. Okay, now food vacuole is being attacked by the lysosomes which are present there in the cytoplasm. Now lysosomes contain the digestive enzymes. They release the digestive enzymes into the food vacuole. Now what will happen is the process of digestion. The food will be broken down into simple soluble substances inside the vacuole, and some of the food will remain undigested. What will happen next is the transport, the absorption, the diffusion of these simple substances into the cytoplasm. So then these simple substances will be transported into the cytoplasm. That step is the step of absorption. Very simple over here. Okay. And then in the cytoplasm, either these substances will be used to get energy, or they can be stored for future use. Maybe the amino acids will be combined again and proteins will be formed. Maybe the sugars will be combined again and carbohydrates will be formed. So either it can store the nutrients or it can use the nutrients in the cytoplasm. That is the step of assimilation. Now this undigested food is over here, green color, within the vacuole. This is to be removed. Now amoeba will move further. It will move in this direction perhaps, and this vacuole will definitely come in contact with the membrane over here. Wherever it will come in contact, the membrane, this membrane, let me show you with the blue color, because the vacuole membrane I have shown with the blue color. So once the amoeba will move towards this direction, definitely this vacuole will come into contact with the plasma membrane. So it will join the plasma membrane at this point, and then it will definitely open up and the waste will be thrown out. And this part, this membrane, will be given back to the plasma membrane of amoeba. In this way, the waste is removed. This step is called the step of egestion. Okay. In this way, amoeba performs all the steps. Amoeba performs the step of ingestion, the first step of Holozoic nutrition. It performs digestion. It performs absorption. It performs assimilation, and finally it performs the egestion. Okay, that was all I had for you people in today's lecture. In next lecture, we're going to take up Holozoic mode of nutrition in man, whereby we will understand the man's digestive system and we will understand how these steps are followed by man also. Till then, take care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz.